I'm cool.
Before we dive into a legitimately big show, we have an in-studio guest. We'll talk Guards, Cavs, and Browns. Jimmy Haslam and the Haslam Sports Group got at least one half step closer to their proposed Brook Park Dome yesterday. The budget passed through the state Senate, Jason, and you have some information. Or was it the House?
House.
Passed the House. It has to go to the Senate now. And you have some information to help clarify some of the misconceptions about this new proposed budget that would impact the Browns stadium proposal.
Yeah, it's really confusing, and quite honestly, some of the reporting on this last week was horrendous. There was some really, really shoddy reporting on all of this. So the House passed its version of the budget. It includes $600 million in bonds for the Browns. It doesn't mean that it's finalized yet. It still has to go through the Senate. The Senate can propose its own budget, at which point the House and the Senate sit down with the governor, and representatives from both sit with the governor, and they say, okay, what's in, what's out. And then they come up with the actual final budget that the governor has to sign into law by June 30th, July 1st, something like that. And then it becomes Ohio's budget. We're not at that point yet. A couple of things on that, though. Last week, there were reports out there that they are cutting like $400 million in education for the stadium, and that is absolutely not true. And I don't want to sit here and advocate for giving billionaires public money. On record, I've said before, I believe the Haslam should pay for it themselves. If they don't pay for it themselves, I personally believe the next best option is what Governor Mike DeWine proposed about doubling the gambling tax. I like that better than the bonds. I'm not thrilled about the bonds idea. But the bonds are basically, the state sells these bonds to banks, investors, whoever, to fund the construction of the stadium, and then it is paid back on the taxes on the revenue of the stadium. And they'll probably run into it that is if the revenue doesn't quite, you could fall into a deficit there. That's why I like the gambling rate thing better. But what's important to understand out of all this, the one thing I want to make clear is they are not cutting $400 million out of the education budget to give to the Browns. That is absolutely not true. It's strictly a bond sale. And I don't want to get too deep in the woods, but the way that it gets misinterpreted like this, and before I should say, Joe Varden, obviously is a good friend of mine, works with me at The Athletic, covers the NBA for us. Prior to getting back into sports, Joe covered politics. He was the State House reporter for the Columbus Dispatch. He was the Woj and Shams of Ohio political coverage at the State House. So he knows this stuff inside and out. He's got a ton of sources on this. I reached out to some of Joe's sources to make sure that we had a good grip on this. So what had happened was, without getting too far lost, 30 years ago, the way that Ohio's schools were funded was ruled unconstitutional. And for 30 years, they've been trying to fix this. And one of the ways that they're trying to fix this is called the Cupp-Patterson model. Two politicians, Bob Cupp and Patterson, sat down and came up with this model. And basically what was ruled was property taxes in Ohio were relied on too heavily to fund the schools. So schools with lower property taxes were getting less money from the state. It wasn't being properly funded, I should say it that way. So the Cupp-Patterson model changes that so that schools with higher property taxes get less money from the state. Schools with lower property taxes get more money from the state. Why does that matter? Because they didn't explicitly follow in this House model the Cupp-Patterson model. Had they done that, there would be school districts that got less money in this budget, but that did not happen. Not one district in Ohio is receiving less money under this budget proposal than they previously got. So why has it been reported that it's been a cut? Because they haven't given it quite to the levels to meet like inflation models and everything else. So it's not as much as the Democrats want, but it's not a cut. And I'm not trying to get political on this. I don't like any politicians. You guys know that. I've said before, I hate them all. I don't like Republicans. I don't like Democrats. I think they're all out to serve their own self-interests. I'm not one side or the other. So this isn't me trying to be rip Democrats or stick up Republicans or anything like that. I'm just trying to be honest with where this stands. So because they didn't get funding to the level that meet, it has been framed as an education cut. It is not an education cut. Not one district is getting less money. So that's important. The bond issue is completely separate from this. The stadium issue is completely separate from this. It is not an education cut. Ultimately, Jimmy Haslam's probably going to get his money. He's probably going to get the $600 million. It will probably pass. Personally, I would like to see Mike DeWine at the last minute try and ram through his idea of doubling the gambling tax. I think that's the best way to go. But because powerful gambling lobbyists are here, it's a really powerful lobbying group. because Republicans refuse to raise taxes on anything. There's a lot working against him. He's a lame duck governor. He's trying to go YOLO on his way out and ram this through. I would love to see it happen. I absolutely think it's the right thing to do. No sports books are going to pull out of Ohio if they double the gambling tax. There's too much money to be made. Ohio is one of the top states in the nation in terms of gambling, and the handle that they bring in, it's like $8 or $9 billion that's gambled every year. That's where they should go to fund stadiums, whether it be Brown Stadium. The Bengals are trying to redo their stadium. They're threatening they could leave at some point. That is, to me, that is the best route to go, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case, unfortunately. I do think Jimmy's ultimately going to get his money, but just because the House budget passed it's just a proposal. It's not the final budget. The final budget won't be known until summer.
You shouldn't talk about raising taxes or nothing. Not with all this tariff talk going on right now.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's not Jason raising taxes.
Don't nobody want.
Well, I want to double the gambling tax because if you talk about the people who use it should pay for it. Well, nobody better than sports gamblers. Yeah. They're the ones who are going to be hopefully using the stadium if they can afford to get in, because those prices are going to be sticker shock.
Man, that's gonna be crazy to see that ticket.
It's gonna be.
Gosh, I gotta
to
keep
put a bow
my
on this before we
job.
move on into other stuff, Jason. So it passed the House. Now it goes to the Senate. It has to pass the Senate, and then it goes to Governor DeWine.
Then it
We
goes
just
to
explained the
Governor
process because this does seem like a step in the Haslam Sports Group in their favor to getting
100%. It's for sure in their favor that this was included in the House proposal. Ultimately, I think he will get the money. And I asked Jimmy, what do you do if the county doesn't fall in line? If you get the state money and the county doesn't fall in line? And he basically said there's other ways to go about it. This is just me talking. This isn't sourced. This is just me from the 30,000-foot view. If he gets the $600 million, I believe this will happen. He'll figure out whether he has to pay for the rest himself, whatever. If they get the $600 million from the state, personally, I believe that the dome is happening. But we'll see. There's still hurdles to clear.
If the dome's happening one way or another.
I believe Jimmy gets what Jimmy wants. I've said that before.
Yeah,
and this is what he wants, and I think he's going to get it. But $600 million, it's 25% ish of the whole thing. Yeah. And so then we'll see. Then it's up to the county. The county at this point is resisted. I don't know if they'll fall in line or not. Jimmy had said it's better for everyone involved if there's a partnership and a cooperation between team and county. I don't know if he'll get that necessarily. We'll see.